What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. It's your boy CP. We are continuing our off-season discussion right here on this video, talking about the plans or what could be the plan for David Stearns in the outfield for 2026 and beyond, in particular up the middle with center field and how to address that position and get better offensively while not getting worse off defensively, as David Stearns has talked about run prevention here in the early goings of this offseason as being a priority for the New York Mets. Now, before we fully get into this video, I would highly appreciate you all smashing those thumbs up buttons, subscribing to the channel for more Mets offseason content all offseason long, and commenting your thoughts and opinions down below, because I really want to hear what you all have to think about this video and everything and anything that we talk about. First of all, we're talking about the outfield, which means we're also talking about the lineup and how the Mets can get better at this position that they've been trying to figure out. And they did think they had figured out with Brandon Nimmo before he inevitably made the move to a corner outfield spot. Now you have Juan Soto in right field for the foreseeable future. No, he's not moving to DH, so let's not even entertain that. And you have to figure out center field because, yes, Tyrone Taylor is great defensively, but it is very clear that for most of 2025, his bat was lacking, and the New York Mets have been trying to figure out how to get more production in the lineup with an everyday center fielder. And this video is kind of ironic, and the timing of it is ironic. And when I'm releasing this, because earlier this afternoon, the New York Mets actually announced that they made a hire to serve as hitting coach for 2026 and presumably, hopefully, for the foreseeable future, trying to get this offense back on track. And that hiring, the name is Troy Snitker, a former Houston Astro hitting coach. He served as their hitting coach over there in the Astros organization from 2019 all the way up until last season, where he was let go after a disappointing year for the Houston Astros organization compared to what they usually put up in the American League. I do believe they missed the playoffs. And so he was let go, and the New York Mets really took it upon themselves to go out and hire him to get things right here with the lineup. And, I kind of like this hiring. I think there's a lot to be excited about. Maybe we'll talk about this on a future stream. This is not what this video is supposed to be about, but I know a lot of fans are going to be upset because he does have a lot of ties to the Atlanta Braves organization as well. He was actually drafted, Troy Snitker was, to the Braves organization in 2011. He was a 19th round pick where he spent 3 years in their farm system and couldn't quite make it up to the big leagues. But he is also the son of former Braves manager, a World Series manager at that, Brian Snitker. And there's a lot of parallels, and the irony is just off the charts here with this hiring for the Mets of a guy that has so much ties to the Atlanta Braves organization. But we're here to talk about center field, and we're talking about one trade target and one free agent target in particular that could serve as center field options, at least until Carson Bench is ready. Because when we're talking about the New York Mets and, the excitement surrounding the farm system, Carson Bench is pretty much almost ready. This guy's 22 years old, and he has excelled every step of the way in this farm system. And I do believe that at some point in 2026, whether it is on the opening day roster or mid-season, we will be seeing Carson Bench in a Mets uniform. The position is still a little bit up in the air, and I really do think that is determined by if the Mets go out and get one of these names that we're talking about on this video, and also what the plan is for Brandon Nimmo and if he's going to be a serious DH consideration, given that, the DH is also something that the Mets have to backfill, whether it's external or internal. So a lot of answers and a lot of moving parts with this roster will basically shape the rest of the way of how the Mets are going to utilize the farm system and Carson Bench in particular in the outfield. But this one name is Jarren Duran, who has been linked to the New York Mets for quite some time. This fan base has been talking about this name for quite some time. And former MLB GM Jim Bowden, who ironically does not like the New York Mets historically with the way that he reports things, but that's fine. basically is saying that he believes Jaren Duran will be a trade candidate and will be traded this offseason. And it makes all the sense in the world, especially when you look at the Red Sox outfield and the logjam that they now have out there with Abreu, Rafaela. I believe you have Roman Anthony as well, who is their top prospect and is going to be leading the way, presumably in center field for them in 2026 and beyond. And Jaren Duran right now looks like the odd man out. And a lot of teams are going to be interested. According to Bowden, teams such as the Phillies, Dodgers, Tigers, Guardians, and Rangers would love to have him. Who wouldn't? He is a competent center fielder defensively, and he provides a lot of good things from the offensive standpoint as well. One team that you don't see here listed from Jim Bowden, whether he's a Mets hater or whether it's because he's a Mets hater or just simply the logistics of an uphill battle the Mets would have trying to trade with the Red Sox, the Mets are not listed here as one of the favorites in his mind to land Durant. And it's pretty obvious from the Mets standpoint that it's going to be an uphill battle to try to trade with the Boston Red Sox because they are going to try to look to add pitching this offseason. I think everybody knows that that was clearly one of the weaknesses of their team in 2025 outside of Garrett Crochet. They're going to want major league ready pitching to go alongside Crochet in that rotation. And these teams that are listed by Jim Bowden have a lot better of a chance at giving the Red Sox what they want in that regard to fill that need for them than the Mets do. And that's especially due to some of the veteran failed leadership and production from Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga, because now the Mets are really going to have to rely on guys like Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, and Brandon Sproat. Now, I will say with the latter of Jonah Tong and Brandon Sproat, you have real rumors right now about potentially flipping those prospects for a guy like Tariq Skubal or any other solidified ace to go alongside Nolan McLean in this rotation. But they are not going to be trading those names for any kind of bat, let alone Jaren Duran. And that will be the gap in negotiations between the Mets and the Red Sox if the Mets even do think about inquiring about Duran this offseason, let alone the fact that you're going to be trying to outbid the rest of these teams that are just simply more well equipped in giving the Red Sox what they want. But you take a look at the numbers, all of these teams are competing for Duran, and rightfully so, because you look at the production, especially in comparison to Tyrone Taylor and what he produced in center field for the New York Mets in 2025. It's a night and day difference. You take a look at almost every single category, every single major offensive stat, right? Now, Duran is not as good of a fielder as Tyrone Taylor is out there. That is for certain. But Jaren Duran also is competent. He's got speed, he's got range, he's got a good arm. But the offensive, differences here are just major from the power standpoint, right? From the speed standpoint and stolen bases. The OPS plus is a dead giveaway to everything. Batting average, the slugging, the on-base percentage, it's night and day different. And so when I talk about a trade candidate, I'm not sure how the Mets are going to get this done, as I just mentioned, with the hurdle that would be present if the Red Sox and Mets discuss a potential deal for Duran, but it would be awesome, an amazing sight to see for Jaren Duran to be a part of this team potentially. I just don't think it's going to happen. Duran is a unrestricted free agent after the 2028 season, and Tyrone Taylor is going to be a UFA after this 2026 season, where the Mets are going to have to decide on his future as a Met. Now, again, I think when you talk about the center field options that the Mets have internally and externally, you're probably talking about a stopgap, because unless you are getting rid of Carson Bench in a Skubal trade, right? Because that also is a possibility if the Mets are serious and the Tigers are serious about letting go of Skubal and the Mets are serious about acquiring him, it's going to take a lot. And I do think Carson Bench will be in those conversations alongside Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, etc. That is the type of player, the caliber of a player that Skubal is. And so if you're not trading Carson Bench, though, right? Let's say the Mets pass up on a Skubal trade because they want Bench in this lineup for 2026 and beyond. You're probably looking for a stopgap option, which is not Jaren Duran, because he's got 3 years of control left. So let's also talk about a free agent target that is a familiar face to this Mets organization, and that is Harrison Bader, who is coming off of a fantastic season, both in a Twins and a Phillies uniform, and he really electrified the Philadelphia Phillies when he came over in the second half of them. Clearly, their season ended in disappointment, but Harrison Bader definitely provided a spark. Just under 20 home runs for Harrison Bader in this 2025 season, batting .277. The RBIs were not really there, but I think when you take a look at this offensive production, OPS above 700, and you take a look at what he produced as a Met just the season prior in 2024 when the aforementioned Tyrone Taylor that you saw on this screen right here, took Harrison Bader's job because he was outperforming Bader with the bat. As shocking as that is, Harrison Bader has really put himself on the map again for teams. And he's 32 years old, going on 33. He has had a really good season. So maybe he does get a multi-year deal, a 2-year deal, but that's still doable if you're the New York Mets and you need a stopgap option to kind of take control before Carson Bench is truly ready. And this all depends on how ready Carson Bench is in the mind of David Stearns, because we could very well see Bench in center field as the starting center fielder to begin the 2026 season. I think he's that good. But if David Stearns thinks that timeline is a little bit rushed, then Harrison Bader is a perfect candidate for a 2-year deal. You won't be reuniting at that point with Starling Marte because he's an unrestricted free agent. And there you have it. You have an outfield configuration that is competent enough before Bench arrives. So, we all know the parameters of the deal that he signed in 2024 with the Mets. It was a 1-year deal, I believe, worth $10.5 million. And then last year, coming off of such a failed 2024 campaign, he signed a $6.25 million deal with the Twins with a mutual option for the 2026 season. And I don't think that the Phillies and Bader are going to come to terms on that mutual option, because I do think that Harrison Bader is going to want to test the market of free agency to get a brand new multi-year deal. And that's where the Mets can swoop back in and take him away from the NL East rival Phillies. So, Mets fans, let me know what you think about this conversation. Let me know what you think about the hitting coach, Troy Snitker, but also Carson Bench. We're talking about this trio of options: Carson Bench, Jarren Duran, and Harrison Bader. What do you think is realistic, and what would you like to see before Carson Bench arrives if he makes it through the offseason without getting traded from this organization? So I appreciate it. Hopefully you all like this conversation and you stick around and subscribe for more of these types of conversations. Smash those thumbs up buttons, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all on the next video. Peace.